Andarki namaskaram. My name is Anupama and I'm your host for this evening. And I welcome you all to the 14th edition of Samskruti Talks. Samskruti Talks happens every third Saturday of the month. And there are a wide variety of interesting and very relevant topics which are discussed during these talks. Some of the latest talks, I'll just share the topic of a few latest talks. One which was last month was on the topic called jurisprudence in ancient Bharat. Earlier than that, there was Kautilya Arthashastra, relevance to contemporary India. And today we are going to have another talk. I will discuss about the details shortly. But before that, let me give you a few notifications. I request all of you to please keep your phone on silent. And if there is any urgent call that you need to make, I would request you to please step outside the hall and make the call. And also, have all of you registered through QR code. If anyone hasn't, I would request them to please, there's a person outside, you can register yourself. That helps us a lot. And I request Debashish ji to come on the stage and give introduction of attendees and some basic suchanalu.
Hello all. We would like to announce the name of all the esteemed attendees that we have with us here today. And we would request you to kindly stand up or raise your hands for the wider audience to see you. Starting with Mr. Radhakrishnan A, DGM retired, Union Bank of India. Mr. Dr. Chingsubam Chanu Malobika, Assistant Professor ABVP. Okay, next Dr. NRK Reddy, Director Synergy School of Business. Ms. Bhavani Akkapeddi, Associate Professor Loyola Academy. Mr. Chandrasekhar Mudraganam, CEO Blue Cloud Softtech Solutions. Mr. Ashok Rao Gunuganti, retired DM LIC of India. Mr. K. Divakar, Director Tech retired Bharat Dynamics Limited. Mr. M.R. Chandu, retired LIC Manager. Mr. P. Mohan Chandran, Founder Director Case Veda. Mr. J. S. Anand Murthy, Co-Founder Director Case Veda. Dr. Vamshi Krishna BM, Assistant Professor, the English and Foreign Languages University. Mr. Arjun Jaiswal, Software Engineer AT&T. Mr. Srinivasa Murthy Tigulla, retired DM LIC. Mr. SGS Murthy, retired Professor and Consulting Engineer Varija Associates. Mr. Ravi Kumar Pulumati, Director Technical, retired Hyderabad Metro Water Supply and Sewerage Board. Mr. V. Kishan Rao, retired Professor, Itihas Sankalna Samiti. Ms. R. Lakshmi Narayan Rao, Advocate. Mr. R. Lakshmi Narayan Rao. Mr. S. Murli Mohan, Principal Commissioner Income Tax Department. Mr. Arvind, Engineering Manager, Aptiv. Dr. Maruti Sarma Mannava, Professor and HOD, Department of Community Medicine, Kamineni Institute of Medical Sciences. Mr. P.M. Satya Sai, retired from Atomic Energy. Mr. Rami Reddy, educator. Mr. Akiraju Srihari, retired engineer, flatsmith. Dr. P.V.S. Reddy, CPMG retired, Telangana Department of Posts. Mrs. Rekha Sharaf, homemaker. Professor Sunaina Singh, former Vice Chancellor. Mr. Umesh Sharaf, retired IPS. Mr. P. Venkata Krishna, Senior Director, retired, National Informatics Center. Mr. Deepak Saini, student at Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Mr. V. Vijay Kumar S. Murthy, retired Senior Manager, UCO Bank. Mr. Shivesh Kaushik, MA Public Policy, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Mr. Vivek Singh, DGM Automation, AGI Greenpack. Mr. Bhaskara Pantula Mohan, former Acting President, National Company Law Tribunal. Dr. Srinivas Solanki, State Official Spokesperson, BJP. Mr. Uduta Venu Gopal, Enterprise Consultant, Lead EGRC Capability, Tech Mahindra. Mr. DVS Krishna, retired Senior Manager, Union Bank of India. Ms. D. Indira, HGA LIC. Dr. Krishna Reddy Chittedi, Associate Professor, University of Hyderabad. Mr. Satyanarayan Sangita, former Professor, National Law School of India, University. Mr. Harish Venkat, Manager, Infosys. Mr. Gautam, sorry, we don't have the details here. Ms. Anushka Singh, student at University of Hyderabad. Dr. Veni Madhavi, Cultural Landscape Consultant, Vedic Vanas. Mr. R.V. Raja Kumar, former Professor and Director, IIT Bhubaneswar. Dr. B. Murli Mohan, retired PG Professor, Government Ayurveda Medical College, Hyderabad, and BJP Medical Cell, Telangana. Mr. Lohit, Director, AgriGold. Thank you.
Thank you, Devashish. Now we formally start the event for this evening with Jyoti Prajwalan. So there's a Deepak on the left side of the dais. I would request Dr. K. Arvind Rao, Dr. U.M. Chaudhary ji, Justice L. Narsimha Reddy Garu, and Dr. Umesh Saraf ji. Four of you, can you please come over for Jyoti Prajwalan? would now request our guests to, when I give their introduction, I would request them to come on the stage and take your seat. Dr. U.M. Chaudhary ji. Dr. U.M. Chaudhary is the governing council member of Samskruti Foundation. He is the former director, additional general manager of BHEL, R&D, and former principal and dean of Aurora Group of Institutions. And currently he is working with Samskruti Foundation as the director of Samskruti Adhyayan Kendra. Dr. K. Arvind Rao ji. Please come on stage. Dr. Arvind Rao ji is the former DGP of Andhra Pradesh. And today's speaker, Dr. Umesh Saraf ji. So, a brief introduction of Dr. Umesh Saraf. He is the additional director of AP Police Academy and joint director of SVP National Police Academy, Hyderabad. DGP Welfare, DGP Special Protection Force of Telangana. Presently adjunct professor at IIM Raipur. He has received several awards, and I would love to name some of them. United Nations Peace Medal 1999. President's Police Medal for Distinguished Services 2014, Union Home Minister's Ati Utkrisht President Police Medal for Distinguished Services in 2014, Union Home Minister's Ati Utkrisht Seva Medal 2021, Commendation Disc for Director National Police Academy, thrice Commendation DISC by DG Bureau of Police Research Development, BPRD, twice. I welcome all of you. And now I invite C.H. Ravikrishna Garu for Vayaktik Geet.
मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं न भोगभवने रमणीयं न च सुखशयने शयनीयम् अहर्निशं जागरणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयम् मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं न जातु दुःखं गणनीयं न च निजसौख्यं मननीयं न जातु दुःखं गणनीयं न च निजसौख्यं मननीयं कार्यक्षेत्रे त्वरणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं दुःखसागरे तरणीयं कष्टपर्वते चरणीयं दुःखसागरे तरणीयं कष्टपर्वते चरणीयं विपत्तिविपिने भ्रमणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं मनसा सततं स्मरणीयं वचसा सततं वदनीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं लोकहितं मम करणीयं। धन्यवाद।
Dhanyavad Ravi Krishna ji. I now invite Dr. U.M. Chaudhary ji on stage to talk to us a little bit about Samskruti Foundation and the work that we do. Chaudhary ji.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, Dr. Arvind Rao garu and Professor Umesh Rao, the main speaker of today, dignitaries present here of the dais, many other special invitees and dear friends. As I was just now telling to some people in the anteroom here a little while ago, this Samskruti Talks is an event we began about a year and a half ago, and after a few sessions initially where it hadn't become that popular and important, at least for the last over 6 months, it has become extremely important, and judging by the number of people who are coming here, the quality of the audience, it seems to be a very important and vital program as far as Samskruti Adhyayan Kendra and Samskruti Foundation are concerned. I will not tell about Samskruti Adhyayan Kendra because we have a pamphlet which gives that information, and we have been around for last 5 years or so, but this I will talk more on these Samskruti Talks and why this was started and what we expect out of it. In fact, there is a brief write-up on it which I think will be given to you shortly, just less than a page, to give you an idea of why we have started it. But nevertheless, at the risk of repetition and seeking pardon of those people who have already heard of it from me, because I have been saying it for the last few sessions of this, still considering it's important, I will briefly repeat it. We, Samskruti Adhyayan Kendra, are a unit which has set before ourselves the task of attempting to link our age-old Samskruti or culture to the contemporary public policy. Now this is a simple statement, but the task is much more complicated than the statement tells. In fact, the public policy itself is a relatively new theme in India, and we don't find many professionals working in that field, although it is becoming popular now for the last 5-6 years or so. This came up as a result of a few important events that were held in Hyderabad, which suggested that the best way to incorporate the good values, the philosophy of our culture into contemporary life is to incorporate the good aspects of it into the contemporary public policy. and it was debated for the first 1 or 2 years extensively with the experts in the field who have a feel for that, and they endorsed that idea that this is the best way we can benefit from our age-old culture than just feeling proud about it or being just happy about having had a great past. So that's why this Samskruti Adhyayan Kendra unit of Samskruti Foundation came into existence. But then how to do is a big challenge before us, because the task is not that well defined. People really do not know what to do, and therefore to get more manpower into this and to expose the idea to the section of the society of intellectuals, important and prominent people who can contribute to that, we thought of arranging this Samskruti talk series. So as I said, it is not just a ordinary lecture series in which we talk about an important theme. A speaker speaks, gives a very good lecture, there are some questions asked, but then afterwards that is forgotten, that's all, there is no follow-up action. So we have designed this series such that the topic chosen is something which very much forms the core idea of linking culture to public policy. The talk content will have something which can be related to this linking of culture to public policy, and it can trigger ideas on that. Because we in Samskruti Adhyayan Kendra are a small setup and we have taken up work on a few themes, but Samskruti and public policy both touch a large aspects of our public life, and therefore work needs to be taken up simultaneously in different fields. And therefore we thought that if you conduct an event in which important people working in different fields who have the interest and capacity to contribute to this, if you gather them in one place and have this kind of lectures, which are not again only just a one-way communication, but interaction sessions following the lecture, so that there is a possibility of churning ideas which can further be possibly processed to give themes which will fit into the theme of relating the cultural aspects to public policy. So it is with this view that we started, and therefore I again repeat that it's not only the speaker who is important, because we get very important prominent people who are experts in their field, but also we get prominent people from the society who have had an opportunity to have great experience and who have bright careers either behind them or they are currently pursuing, and those who have the potential to contribute to this task of linking culture to public policy. Therefore, we also are allowing a lot of time for interaction following the presentation, so that it's not limited only to a one-way street, only on addressing, but rather a discussion, fruitful discussion, which will give rise to ideas. So we have started working in the area of water, the public policy and culture linking in water and in food, because these are the two important areas. But there are so many important areas like for instance, say defense, human resources, so many areas on which there are experts available in the society and they can begin work. But how to do that? So this we think as a window of interaction between Samskruti Adhyayan Kendra and the experts in different fields who are present in the audience here. So today in this series of Samskruti talks, we have an important lecture and followed by interaction by Shri Umesh Rafji, and the theme is Leadership Lessons from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that as the title itself suggests it's going to be very important, interesting, and very fruitful. So, since we have a long session ahead of us, without taking more time, I will stop right now. I will again, at the end of this session, will have an opportunity to tell a little more about why and how we plan to do this work of interlinking culture to public policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. Now the main event will start. So we will have our speaker talk on the topic, which Chaudhary ji has already mentioned, leadership lessons from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Following the talk, we will also have a discussion where you can ask questions and it will be an interactive session. So I would request all of you to pay attention, jot down any points that you would want to discuss with the speaker later on. Thank you. I now request Dr. Umesh Saraf to please come on stage.
Respected Arvind Rao sir, Ramurthy Garu, Professor Chaudhary, and all the dignitaries in the audience today. Before we start, I just needed to make two quick disclaimers. Number one is that I can see that many of you, thank you Amit, you have joined. Sir Amit Garg has also come, sir. Director National Police Academy. Many of you are Prakand Pandits of our scriptures, and in fact, after I have come here, some of you have in fact asked me which text of Gita I have used to deliver today's talk. So, by no stretch of imagination, I can claim to be a Pandit or a Shastri or a big Vidwan of our scriptures. I am a student. How my journey started was from the time when I retired from the IPS in 2023, and I joined IIM Raipur as an adjunct professor, where I started teaching leadership. I started teaching leadership, and then I realized, as many of you would know, in management education we use case studies to teach different concepts of management principles. When I was teaching leadership, not only to the young MBA students, but also to executives in their mid-career kind of training programs, I found that a large number of cases seem to have no resonance with how, as a civilization, we have been thinking for the last thousands of years. And I found that if I was able to get stories, anecdotes, cases, ideas from our own traditions that resonance with the young minds and even minds who have been thinking in a particular way, that resonance I found it to be greater. I have been, as a student, from my student days, interested in our texts, and I have read, but not as a very big Pandit. But then I started focusing on this subject, and I developed a course on leadership lessons from Indian scriptures. I found that when I was using these stories, these ideas from not only Bhagavad Gita, from our entire Shastra pantheon, so as to speak, including things like Jataka tales, Panchatantra, Arthashastra, so many other our Shastric literature, I found that I was able to get nuggets of wisdom, nuggets of so-called case studies, and I found that it was generating a lot of interest in minds. The same ideas which came through Western texts, when they were mixed with ideas, concepts from our own heritage, I found that people had a far greater, sudden aha moment that, this makes sense. So it is from that spirit that I request you to accept today's offering. Because if you engage me in a Shastrarth, a debate on the Shastric principles, I will not be able to compete with any of you, because all of you are scholars of our Shastras. You compete with me in ideas on leadership, because that is my core strength, and especially leadership as respect to public policy. it is in that spirit. So how I plan to do this today's talk is, I will take a few minutes to first lay down the paradigm of our Shastras and how Gita is located within that Shastra pantheon, so as to speak. And I have taken just 12 shlokas from Gita to illustrate the point. In fact, I have not taken the most famous shlok, which even a child knows in India, the shlok 47 from chapter 2, Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachanam. I am not talking about that today. So I am talking about some other shlokas, and then I will try to place it in the context of how it is related to public leadership. Yesterday, I also received an email from Dr. Chaudhary placing before me 5 questions on the subject relating to public policy. And he told me that I should speak about these 5 questions on public policy with respect to this topic. So after having spoken about these ideas from our Shastras and from Bhagavad Gita, I will also attempt to answer these 5 questions, and then the floor is yours. So, but before I begin, let me ask you, how many of you believe that leaders are born? One is a born leader, and leaders cannot be taught, leaders cannot be made. Leaders are born leaders. How many of you believe that? And how many of you believe that no, leaders can be made? Leaders are born? Leaders can be shaped, but how many of you believe that leaders are born leaders? None of you? Wonderful. In many audiences, I find people saying that leaders are born. Somebody is a born leader. In fact, in many corporate training programs, you will find that people feel that leaders are those leaders who are born leaders. Actually, if you see our tradition, it always says that leadership is a journey, it's a process. And this is also now the accepted wisdom in leadership literature, that it is a process. It is an intersection of not only the leader, but also the situation and the followers. A leadership style which may be valid in one context will be a failure in some other context. And leaders, as Sir says, they are formed. They are formed not only by circumstances, they are formed by self-learning. They can be taught, they can be trained, they can hone their leadership skills. And in fact, again and again, you will find this resonating throughout the Bhagavad Gita also, is about what choices we make in life, which hone our leadership skills. And all our scriptures, they focus on that entire process of this intersection of the leader and the situation and the followers who you have. That if you keep on focusing only on the position or the post or the power which you have, you will miss the bus. It is actually how you look into yourself, leadership over self before leading over others. This is the core message actually. Again and again it is said. Just a very quick reference to why it resonates. In the Ramayana, the antagonist is a rule breaker. So the avatar becomes a rule follower, so much so that he becomes Maryada Purushottam. In the Mahabharata, the antagonist is a rule follower. Duryodhana never ever actually breaks a rule by law. He only does not understand the spirit of the rule. So the avatar becomes a rule breaker. Situation changes, so the leadership style changes. Because the same style would not have resulted in success in a more vitiated, in a more corrupted system, where the antagonist is following the rule. He is not breaking the rule per se, but he is not following the spirit of the rule or the spirit of the law. So the intersection of leadership, the leader, the situation and the follower results in leadership effectiveness. And we will see instances again and again from different examples. Again, before I go forward, I just want to place in reference to way this civilization has thought about itself and how it is, because it's necessary to place in context the civilizational idea which has been given to us in our heritage. It's not only about seeing God as an external agency and the God inside us. After all, when we say Namaste, it means that the divinity in me bows to the divinity in you. This is a civilizational concept. It is not something which can be understood by translation. Similarly, God as an internal potential and as an external agency is something which this civilization believes in. Similarly, the sacred feminine. This is a civilization which has the sacred feminine at the heart of its civilizational ethos. Gods and goddesses embodying natural and cultural forces. But the most important thing is this idea of rebirth. People think that rebirth is just about getting born again. But the more critical idea is how time is seen. Because in all other systems of thinking, time is linear. Time is linear unless and until you believe that time is circular. The whatever was, is, shall be again. What has happened in the past will happen again in the future. Time is a cycle. It again and again it repeats itself. Idea of rebirth will not make sense. When we fix these basic building blocks of a civilizational thinking, we'll be able to make a little bit more sense. Why I am starting from this very basic is that I find many young minds not able to grasp the logic inherent in the way these ideas have been presented to us in our scriptures. A very basic starting point of how our shastras have been, the pantheon of our shastras, how they are structured. As you know, our Shruti literature is the Vedas, which are basically aparushaya. These are supposed to be eternal truths which our mantra drashta rishis, they have just absorbed. And they have been passed through the Guru Shishya Parampara for thousands of years without a break, without any change. Because they are aparushaya, they are supposed not to change. So Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samveda and Atharveda, and the Samhitas, the Brahmanas, the Aranyakas and Upanishads. I'm just placing it to you because I want to place how Gita is placed in our Shastric pantheon. So there are 108 Upanishads, but 10 are the most discussed, studied and spoken about. I will start with a story from the Katha Upanishad, and that is the story of Nachiket. Many of you would have heard about it, but I want to go deeper into what it means. As you know, Nachiket saw his father donate cows which were past their useful life cycle. So he was upset. He thought that this is not true dhanam. This is not true dhanam because my father is not donating something which is useful. So he asked his father, "Whom will you give me?" So his father got upset and said, I give you to god of death, Yam. Yam ko diya tumhe. So this boy walks and goes to the abode of Yama, waits for him for 3 days, and Yam was out of station, I believe. So for 3 days he waited for him, hungry, thirsty, and Lord Yam came and he saw this young boy waiting for him after having traveled through that difficult path. He was pleased and he said, "Okay, for waiting for 3 days, I will give you 3 boons." So the first boon was, of course, the welfare of his parents and love of his parents. Second was the secrets of performing yajnas. And third was where Nachiket asked him the secret of life after death, what happens after death. And Yam gave him all the pralobans, all the lollipops for a young child, that I will give you this, I will give you that. But Nachiket insisted on getting this eternal knowledge. This dialogue between Yam and Nachiket is a fantastic dialogue, in my opinion, about behavioral science and behavioral economics, where Yam tells Nachiket that in our life, in every choice, there are 2 options. The first is what is Preya, which is pleasant, and the second is what is Shreya, something which is beneficial. And this is the classic dilemma of a choice in almost all choices. What is Preyaskar and what is Shreyaskar? And this is also what neuroscience confirms. Human mind has a bias towards the present, which is known as the present bias. We value things today which are in our hand, which are present before us, rather than something which is remote, which is something in future. And something which is in future, which may be beneficial, it does not have that salience as compared to something which is in the present and something which is maybe in the long run not that beneficial to us. This is known as the present bias. Again and again in our choices, and almost every single modern facility which you have it utilizes this present bias. This dopamine kick which you get when you look at your social media, the dopamine kick which you get when you indulge in those things which generate that kind of a neurotransmission in your brain, they are some things which we get addicted to. So, there is a very famous experiment known as the Stanford marshmallow experiment. In Stanford, they did this experiment decades ago. It is a classic experiment in behavioral science where very young children, they were put in a room and marshmallows are basically candies. They were put in front of them. There was a camera. They did not know that they were being observed. And they were told that if you wish, you can pick up one marshmallow right now. But if you wait for 5 minutes, you can take 2. And then they observe. Some children, as soon as the interviewer went outside the room, they picked up one marshmallow and they ran away. But some children, they controlled themselves, and you could see that they are struggling with themselves. They are looking at the marshmallows. They are looking at the bowl of the marshmallows, but somehow they control themselves, and after the 5 minutes are over, they happily get up and they pick up 2 marshmallows. The experiment did not end here. The experimenters, they monitored the performance of these children throughout their lives and careers for several decades. And they found a very strong correlation between those children who had the capacity to postpone their gratification with success in life. Those children who wanted immediate gratification, they did not do as well as those children who could delay their gratification. So basically what it means is this choice again and again of what is Preya right now leads us to make choices which are perhaps not beneficial to us in the long run. Our limbic system, our you can say pre-evolutionary system, our brain mechanism, it is very instinctive. What Daniel Kahneman calls type 1 thinking, which is instinctive, which reacts in the present and looks at the cost-benefit analysis in the present and chooses something which is more attractive. It is the type 2 thinking or the prefrontal cortex which analyzes, which calculates, which sees the benefit in the long run, which results in a better outcome. So this is how neuroscience confirms these ideas. So meaning versus pleasure. Meaning, the pleasure will give you something known as hedonistic pleasure. Hedonistic happiness is something which is in the moment, which comes out of possession, which comes out of power, which comes out of immediate exercise of benefits, which comes out of things which please us in the moment. What the Greeks called eudaimonia, the eudaimonic pleasure, the eudaimonic happiness, comes from a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. There is a very beautiful book written by a World War II Nazi camp survivor, a man's search for meaning, where a man who survived the Holocaust, he talks about, I wish that you see that some videos on this book, A Man's Search for Meaning. The point is that the purpose, a higher purpose, a sense of meaning in your life generates not only long-lasting happiness, it increases lifespan also. And it, of course, it also results in better outcomes in your life choices. So this is what I wanted to start by saying, that all our wisdom can be, how we lead ourselves and how we lead others can be, devoted to these 2 words, Shreya and Preya. What is Shreya is long-term, need not be Preya in the short term. And our leadership choices very often will result in this kind of dilemma. So second category of our texts is Smriti texts, which are of course the Vedangas, the Upavedas, the 6 darshans, which are both Astik and Nastik, and Dharma Shastras, Itihasas, Puranas, and Agamas and Tantra. It is in Darshan Shastra, all the 6, of which Vedanta is the last one, of which Bhagavad Gita is a part. So Vedanta is of course based on Prasthantrayi, of which Brahma Sutras and Bhagavad Gita are a part. So from this reference, I approach this idea of how we can get leadership ideas from Bhagavad Gita. So In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks out of 700 verses in 574 verses. And I am going to today talk of only 12 of them. And we begin with the first one, where Dhritarashtra asks Sanjay, Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre Samveta Yuvatsava Mamaka Pandavascheva Kim Kurvata Sanjay. So Dhritarashtra, who is the blind king, he asks Sanjay in Kurukshetra, along with Pandavas and my sons, what did they do? Please note, here Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjay about Kurukshetra, where Kurus ruled. But he also uses this word Dharam Kshetra. So what is this Dharam Kshetra? Why is it Dharam Kshetra? Why did Dhritarashtra use this word Dharam Kshetra? Anybody? Why did Dhritarashtra begin this entire 700 verses? Why did Vedavyasa use this word Dharam Kshetra? Kurukshetra, one can understand. This is the place where Kurus are ruling. Kurus, this is the land of Kurus, so Kurukshetra. But why Dharam Kshetra? The battle has not yet begun. Battle is yet to come. This is just after Lord Krishna is yet to give the Gyan of Gita. Battle is not yet begun. Arjuna is not fighting.
All is based on Dharma, principles of Dharma, and to highlight
Yes, sir.
the importance of Dharma. Finally, Dharma reigns.
Dharma reigns at the end. Yes, that's true, sir. But I am more interested in this word Kshetra. Okay, I'll talk about it as we go along. It is the clue is in chapter 13 itself. What is this Kshetra? Because in leadership lessons, this is something which I teach my students again and again. Okay, why this is important. So we began with the first verse, and we'll continue with the last verse of Gita. That is verse 78, chapter 18, where Sanjay winds up the narration of all the 700 slokas. He winds up the entire Gita Upadesh. But he ends with this, Yatra Yogeshwara, Krishno Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Virjaya Bhuti Dhrava, Nitir Matir Mama. Where there is Lord Krishna and where there is Arjuna, the wielder of the bow, there are fortune, victory, prosperity and steady righteousness. This is my opinion. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, in public service, public administrators and public policy, these two words, Matir Mama, are the be all and end all, and everything else is commentary. One very famous rabbi was asked about Torah. Okay, what is the teaching of Torah? So he said, the teaching of Torah is the golden rule that don't do to others what you don't want to be done to you. Everything else is commentary. In my view, as far as public service is concerned, Matir Mama, this is my opinion. This is the entire teaching. Everything else is commentary. This is a powerful king. He is blind, but he is not powerless. He is strong. He is so strong that he can destroy an iron statue of Bhima in his anger by crushing it to pieces. This is a king full of ambition. In the first sloka, he says he distinguishes between Pandavas and his sons. This is a king whose ambition has resulted to this situation where the two armies are standing in front of each other. And to this king, a Sarathi who has been given the Divya Drishti, no doubt, but he is just a Sarathi, he is a charioteer. He says, where this Krishna and Arjuna, victory is going to be their side. That means your sons are going to lose. This is my opinion. He goes on to say, this is my opinion. The very next moment, this powerful king, who is full of hatred for the Pandavas, although because of the Dharmic principles, he cannot express that openly, but every time he supports Duryodhan, essentially not because of his fatherly love, it's because of his own ambition. To this king, the charioteer says, this is my opinion, which he need not have said. He says, this is my opinion. In public service, this is the only thing which can be taught to public servants. Give your opinion freely and frankly. Don't be afraid of the outcomes. It is your job, constitutionally mandated, to give your opinion truthfully without worrying about how the political executive is or your senior officers are going to take it. It is your job to give your opinion freely and frankly, and we'll discuss as to whether it has, what is the proviso that it should not be colored by personal interest. But this is my opinion. I found this to be very, very, on the point when I try to talk about public policy and leadership in public policy. That if public servants can give their opinion, their expert opinion without fear or favor, much of the problems in public policy administration will disappear. Because many times we give opinions in anticipation of what our masters would like to hear. So as a result of which, the political executive and the bureaucratic executive starts living in an echo chamber. They only hear things which the people around them think that they want to hear. So in my opinion, these two words are the be-all and end-all of public policy administration, and I'll try to prove that. So this verse basically says that divine partnership of grace and effort. So you don't need only divine grace, you need effort also. So when it comes to divine grace, it is strategic clarity, it is ethical grounding, a higher purpose, the Shreya purpose. This is very important. It is not enough to say that I have got a strategic thinking or I am having a clarity of purpose. What is that purpose for? There has to be a higher purpose. Otherwise, all your strategic planning, all your insight is nothing but crookery, because the purpose is not something which is a higher purpose. Then from the effort side, it requires courage, it requires commitment, it requires accountability, it is execution under pressure. When these two things come together, then only you get success, prosperity, and everything else follows. Strategy without values results in instability. Today in our world, all around us, we have strategy without values. You have people, you have nations acting so-called strategically to obtain strategic goals. You have wars being fought in the name of strategic goals, but there are no values behind them. And that is the result, that results in instability. And if you have just values, then you can be sitting in the bookstore reading all books, but values without action is nothing but stagnation. So the Lord does not teach us to just have higher values. The higher values have to be coupled with action, resolute action. Many times in India especially, we fall in we make the mistake of being high-minded only. We think that because we are high-minded, we deserve success. Being high-minded does not result in success. Being high-minded without resolute action will not result in success. Both the things have to come together. All right? So, this very famous quote attributed to Ernest Becker, who was an American thinker, who says that basically what I have said just now, that beyond a point, just by thinking, by knowing, you will not succeed. You have to act in a self-forgetful way. Basically, what Gita says is that you have to act in a Nishkama Karma, without worrying about the consequences, the fruits which will come. Because it is self-forgetfulness. You forget yourself, your own ego. Okay? So this is also the leadership literature, which says that you become better as a leader with these three things: action, observation, reflection. Act, observe on the action, reflect on the outcomes, correct your action, again observe, reflect, again act. This is how the spiral grows. If you miss out any of the three, then it is going to result in stagnation. So action, observation, reflection. This is very much a part, this gets taught in this very verse. Alright? So the 4 pillars of assured victory are, as Sanjay says, Shri, Vijay, Bhuti and Dhruvaniti. Basically in modern language, it is financial strength, it is competitive advantage, it is organizational health, and it is governance integrity. Alright? Okay. The next verse, where Lord Krishna says, what are the internal enemies, the internal saboteurs as a leader for self-leadership? So basically, in fact, much before I chanced upon this shloka, I used to teach my students in the National Police Academy as well, is that if you are taking any decision, and if you look into yourself and you do introspection, and you find that your action is motivated by either fear or anger, envy or greed, then it means that you are in trouble. Your action is not justified. I found that it is to be exactly the same, because anger comes from a fear. When you don't know something, and when something is not according to your pre-planned actions, pre-planned thoughts, you get angry. Krodh, kam, desire. Desire by itself is not wrong, but when desire, again, it exceeds and it creates unnecessary ambition. So it creates that envy, it creates that greed, and you take decisions which are not Shreyaskar. Every day, these days, for the last several months, for the last 2-3 years actually, in fact, when I started, I started teaching on this subject itself. People are getting, victims of cyber fraud. All kinds of cyber fraud, financial crimes which are happening. And most of the times, it is not because of anything else. Either it is fear, that somebody says that you are under digital arrest, or somebody says that you will get so much of money if you invest so much, that within a matter of 1 month, you will double your money or triple your money in 1 year, something like that. It is unreasonable expectation. So, Kam and Krodh, and Lord Krishna says that these are not only Mahapap, it is Mahashano. This is the destroyer of your happiness. It is a destroyer, devourer of your world. So, both these two things. So, ego-driven decisions, when we decide as leaders based on our ego, short-term profit obsession, something which is Preya, we have to get quarterly results. So, for that, we take decisions which we know are wrong for organizations. Just yesterday, we have had a meltdown in SDFC because they discovered that they have been selling in Dubai bonds which are actually highly risky to retail customers on the grounds that they are very safe. And every day in our public policy also we find that people, they take decisions to suit right now, whether it's because of electoral reasons or because of it's for personal popularity of officers and leaders. This obsession with the present and toxic leadership behavior, all of us. In fact, I have asked this question to so many people that, in fact, all of you, many of you would have actually superannuated. But in service, when I ask what percentage of your bosses, past bosses, you would like to work for again, what percentage of your past bosses you would like to work for again, I rarely get an answer above 25%. 1 out of 4 bosses, only they feel that they would like to work for again. Majority of the bosses, they feel that they would not like to work for again. And essentially because of toxic leadership, who create an atmosphere of toxicity in the organization. And many times, senior leadership in public space or in private sphere, they go mad when crisis happens. In fact, all of you would be knowing of people, otherwise good people, who are very pleasant when things are going smoothly, who are very, very charming to work with in normal circumstances. But the moment a crisis hits, or the moment and something uncertain happens, they seem to go mad. They seem to start blaming everybody. These are the people who are, you can say, have a very low tolerance for ambiguity. They want everything to be certain. They want everything to be as per plan, as per timetable. But life is not like that. World is not like that. The world is essentially very, very unstable. It is very, very volatile. It is very, very uncertain as to what is going to happen tomorrow. A month ago, nobody knew that. Everybody had an anticipation of the Iran war, but nobody knew the scale and how much it will continue and what will be the impact. But if you were not having any blinkers in your eyes, you would have known that this is what is incoming for the last actually 1.5 years. Okay, so these crisis management skills, they also get deepened when you follow these principles, as we will see. So what Lord Krishna says is, you have to follow a path of moderation in life, okay? And this is in the 6th chapter, and I will not spend time on this. The Lord warns against extremes, that everything in extreme is bad, okay? And what is the solution? Solution is moderation, yukta. And the promise is that yoga bhavati dukhaha, that this will destroy your sorrows. This is the path to happiness, as I called eudaimonic happiness. That if you follow these principles of moderation, your life will be happier. Your decision making will be more pleasant. Your organizational effectiveness will improve. For you yourself, the Lord says, Yukt Ahar, Yukt Vihar, Yukt Cheshta, and Yukt Swapna. Basically, moderation in your diet, food. It's not only about food, I believe. It is also about your consumption. What you like. Many times we buy things for the sake of the pleasure which the momentary purchase has given us. That purchase can be of anything. Yukt Vihar, your recreation. Is it unlimited, uncontrolled? Or is it, Lord does not ask you to do, joyless austerity, that you are living like a hermit. It is, our systems teach us to live life to the full as a grihast, but in moderation. Yukt Cheshta, the effort has to be balanced. It should not be maniacal. Whether it is exercise or whether it is work, this shloka teaches us a work-life balance. You have to maintain a balance between your work and your life goals. And of course, the balanced swapna, balanced rest, moderation. I found this very similar to some texts about when Gautam Buddha was attaining, enlightenment. When he was starving himself, he heard some women, the local village women, who were, singing, and they were tuning their rustic instruments. Basically, what they were singing was that if the wires, if the strings in the instrument are too tight, they'll break, and if they are too loose, there will be no music. Basically, it's about moderation. That the string has to be just tight enough. So if it is just tight, the stress is a eustress, good stress. If it is not tight enough, there's no eustress also, no good stress also. And many times in life, you would notice that when there is no target, when there is no stress at all, we become a bit lazy. We allow things to drift, and we are not effective enough. When the stress becomes too much, then it becomes a distress. All right. So it has to be. You have to handle the stress in such a way that it's just the right golden mean. So physical health, your mental clarity, the spiritual progress, and sustainable practice. This comes out of this moderation in whatever we do. It need not be, you don't have to, be a marathoner to become fit. But you need to do steady, regular exercise. It need not be an extreme exercise. People injure themselves more in exercising beyond a certain limit, the gym rats, but actually it is not advisable. Similarly, with any other thing, that it should not be extreme, right? So I will come back to this question which I asked about Dharma Kshetra. So in chapter 13, we get this Gyan known as Kshetra Kshetragya Gyan. And I find this, it resonates with the people young people actually a lot, because many of them don't have this clarity. Then the world around us, the market, regulations, the competition, people call it a VUCA world or a BANI world. These are all acronyms, but basically this is a volatile world. So this is the field, this is the Kshetra. And what is the Kshetragya? Kshetragya is your leadership consciousness, your clarity, your composure. And in the Gita, what is the nature of the Kshetra? It is basically the physical body, the mental apparatus, and your sensorium, your Jnana Indras, your Karma Indris, your sense objects. This is what comprises the Kshetra. And Gita says this Kshetra or this unmanifest Prakriti is subject to vikar, it's subject to change, it is subject to modification all the time. And this confusing the Kshetra with the Kshetragya is the one which causes all the problems. And the Kshetragya is what? It is this entire thing, this Paramatma, your Jivatma inside you, and the connection, the cosmic connection which is between the Paramatma and the Atma inside you, the Paramatma and the Atma inside you. This is never changing. This is the observer. This is the observer which is observing all the time. It is more than your Mana Buddhi Chit Ahankar. There is something which is deeper inside. I will not go into the esoteric discussions of the division of the Atma and the Paramatma, Advaita. That is not my purpose. I found this to be very useful, because what are this field which is changing all the time? This is the one which many times we get confused. We get encouraged in modern world to take care of our mental apparatus, mental health, our ego, our sense of identity, our sense of, our memory system. All these things are good. Yes, we focus on that. But confusing yourself with these things is the one which causes pain. And the sorrow comes when we forget to become a witness, to observe what is happening with us. Many times, if you start observing yourself, I have found this personally to be very, very useful. When many times under stress, when I try to observe myself as to why I am feeling this way, what is the immediate cause, I find that this too shall pass. This is something which I need not get too worried about. And as leaders, again and again, I teach my students that you start trying to develop the faculty of observing yourself all the time as to what is motivating you, why are you acting in a particular way. All right. So this discrimination of distinguishing as to what is happening around you with what you are is the one which causes this liberation. All right. This is something I found it to be very useful. And in verse 8 to 12 of chapter 13 itself, these 20 qualities of true knowledge are described. This can be basically divided into three pillars: ethical foundations, a sense of detachment, and devotion and devotion to the Almighty. I will not go much into this. All of you know this, but these are essential principles which when we are children, our parents teach us, and as we grow older, we think that this is something which is valid only for textbooks. But in real life, if we try to follow these principles of what true knowledge is, we will find that our choices which we make in decision making, they will be more often than not Shreyaskar, and they will be beneficial in the long run. All right. So, towards end of Gita in chapter 16, what are the important divine qualities in human beings that is described in verse 1 to 3, of which fearlessness, remember the very first time I said, this is my opinion. So fearlessness, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthita, and Dhamma, that is sense control. Controlling your senses, controlling your immediate, desires, maintaining purity of thought, charity, being charitable in your thought process, not being so judgmental, and also try to share not only physical but also mental faculties, knowledge, wealth, and comfort, and a sense of sacrifice. Whatever we do it with a sense of sacrifice to the divine, that it is my offering. Even if there is no immediate benefit, it is my offering in the process of the yajna of life. All right. So, 5 steps: study and reflection. This is what I teach my students, that study as much as you can about your own scriptures, reflect on what you are doing and why you are doing. Cultivate these qualities, these 20 qualities. All of us cannot do all of them, but as much as we can do, try to cultivate them consciously. That is this the right way to do things? Detach yourself from the sattvic, the rasic, the tamasic gunas of this unmanifested prakriti, which the Gita says is all around us. Basically, it is nothing but Maya. But you can understand, that these are even if you do something good with an intention that you will get famous or people will praise you, that is coming from a sense of that attachment to the outcome of the good action. I find many times many charitable actions being done by people with the intention that people will praise them for their charity. So that is the example of being attached to the result of your work. Conquer your internal enemies, the calm and the krodh, fear, greed, envy, and finally realize your true nature. This wisdom can be used by any leader, whether in public policy space or in corporate world, to become a better leader of their own people and their own selves. Okay, this is what I wanted to say about lessons of leadership from Bhagavad Gita. I have used just 12 verses. But there is so much more to learn from Bhagavad Gita and our scriptures. This is just an example. I was given 5 questions by Chaudhary ji. If you want, I can talk about them right now, or we can do it during the question and answer. If some question matches this, perhaps we can use this itself. Otherwise, I will stop here. Or I can continue with the 5 questions which Chaudhary ji has mentioned. So the first question was, how can the Gita's emphasis on Svadharma guide policymakers in balancing personal ethics with societal welfare during resource allocation decisions? So, what is Svadharma according to Bhagavad Gita? It is basically your duty arising from your role and context. It is not what many people think, that a Brahmin has to only do study and a Vaishya has only to do trade. It is what is the role and context of your position. In public policy, for an administrator or for a bureaucrat or an officer, it is basically what is your duty when it comes to your role and context. And when you understand it to be that, then your application to resource allocation becomes very clear. Your role and context determines what is your duty. All right. So again, in Bhagavad Gita, most of the principles get divided into 3 anchors. Here also, the 3 anchors are Svadharma, Nishkama Karma, and Lokasangraha. Basically, what is good for the larger good of people, to keep the people together. And if you do your work without any sense of personal attachment to the outcome, that I will get benefit, this is for my good. If the purpose is impersonal, it is that you have passion for your work but not passion for yourself. If you do take your work seriously but not yourself, if your work is not something which is for your own personal glory, then the Svadharma becomes very clear. Then the decisions and the choices which you will make will obviously be Shreyaskar and not Preyaskar. So that's just 3 case studies which are found in leadership literature. These are very standard case studies. This is a case study about district collector and disaster relief. And many of you would have seen many times in disaster relief, those areas which are not politically powerful, they don't get automatically, that amount of relief as compared to those areas which are politically more powerful. This happens again and again in my own service. Many times I have found that those areas, those places, even in Bandobas, in Krishna Pushkarams for instance, some areas they did not get funds, and some areas because they were politically powerful, they got more funds. So if it is done in a manner which our scriptures teach us, it will not happen. In fact, it will happen the other way around. The weaker people, the areas which are politically less powerful, are likely to get better funding and better resources. Budget allocation across sectors. So if there is something which is new, something which is high capital, like a big expressway or something, vis-a-vis something which is long lasting, which is having a big gestation period, like a school system or like a health system. Many times political decisions, they go in favor of the big capital expenditures. So balancing everything will ensure that when, as an officer, if you are trying to give policy notes or cabinet notes, they will be balancing the long term also along with the short term. All right. And the third example is, of course, these days environment degradation has become a big problem for developing economies, especially India and China. So we have to balance this, because many times the pressure is to go for development at the cost of the environment. But if you take the future generations into account, then the cost-benefit analysis will reveal a different picture. So these days, fortunately, the awareness is more. But even today, many times people who talk of environment are seen as obstructors to development. So Svadharma will determine that you take into account the future generations also, not only the present generation, right? So what are the policy tools and the tensions? As I said, cost-benefit analysis for projects, you have to, and policy, pressure, political pressure for fund distribution, This is another pressure for administrators. Growth versus equality in budget choices. So all these three anchors, Nishkama Karma, Svadharma and Lokasangraha, they will determine what are the choices a political or a bureaucratic leader makes, whether they are on the correct lines or not. All right. So how do we design institutions around Svadharma? So there have to be competency frameworks, which many departments don't create. You have to create competency frameworks as to what are the targeted goals, what are the long-term implications of the policy. We have to have open disclosure and accountability for every decision for projects. In our own state, in Telangana, we have multi-billion-dollar investments in projects with dubious long-term prospects and very, very dubious, accountability measures taken at the time of execution of the projects. So this happens because we are not willing to have transparency in the way decisions are taken. And last, of course, will be ethics training for officers. And this is something, again, many times people are impatient with ethics training. They think that it cannot be a part of an official curriculum. I beg to differ. My own experience as a trainer in the National Police Academy and later in the IIM tells me that the more you talk about this subject, the more you engage with the young minds on this subject, the better is the long-term outcome on an average. There are some minds who will think that these are all fairy tales and these need not be followed in real life. But actually a large number of young minds, they do get affected positively. All right. So this was the answer to the first question. The second question was, how does the Gita's vision of treating friends and enemies equally inform equitable policy frameworks that promote decentralization and upliftment of Dharma in policy making? Very, very long question. But a very short answer is that Lord Krishna is again and again shown to be equal to all people. And there are many stories from Bhagavad Purana as well as Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is, of course, a lesson in statecraft, but from Bhagavad Purana, again and again, you will find that Lord Krishna is equal to everybody. From the lowest to the highest, he treats everybody equally. The message is that there has to be social equity. Equality is not possible because we are all unequal in different people, but there has to be equity. There has to be a sense of fairness that is important for social cohesion. A large percentage of our national and civilizational ethos has been this failure to generate this unity in the national ethos. It basically comes from this failure that we have this social division where people are seen as different and unequal to each other, in sense of being equally children of the Almighty. So this practical equality and an equitable policy is a necessary sine qua non of good public policy. It is not to do with electoral politics, but it has everything to do with Lokasangraha. It has everything to do with national cohesion, developing that national spirit where everybody feels that they have a stake in the society. All right. And this is the core principle, that there has to be, in the structure, in the policy making, a sense of equality for everybody. And of course, policy decentralization is very important, because without decentralization, periphery cannot be taken care of. Because if there is centralization, periphery will always be ignored. Always. Forget the national center and forget the state capital. Even in a district, even as a district SP, I used to find that the district boundaries were the least patrolled. In fact, career criminals know, even in a city like Hyderabad, the worst criminals, they have an understanding that where the police station's boundaries meet, that is a place where they do the petty kind of street crime. Whether it is street prostitution, or whether it is pickpocketing, or whether it is other kinds of petty crime or drug smuggling, they always operate at the boundaries. Because boundary at the periphery is always the place where there is least amount of presence of the administration. So unless you have decentralization, unless you have a mechanism of administration which devolves decision making to the periphery, periphery will always be ignored. And this is the reason why in our own country, most of the periphery is always under some kind of public disorder, whether it is in the northeast or it is in the north or in the west. All right. Okay. So what are the policy levers? The policy levers are, of course, that the policy has to be equitable. You have to create policy systems which create not equality but equity, where people they feel that they have a fair stake, equals fair stake in the system. They don't feel left out. It is not to do with pampering. It is not to do with a system which rewards rent seeking or advantage by birth. It has to be based on equity. It need not be something which is seen as a favor. It is necessary for social cohesion. Otherwise, with the kind of vastly different types of people which we have in our nation, national cohesion will always remain a dream. Right. So, third question was, how does Nishkama Karma apply to public administrators implementing policies amidst political uncertainty? All right. So, a very quick answer. Nishkama Karma, as I have already said, is basically not worrying about the outcome. All right. It is not something which is passive. It is basically without attachment to the outcome. We have been taught this from our childhood, but many times we forget because we get involved and we are looking for, many times forget personal attachment, forget personal benefits. Many times we get too much attached to what the outcome is going to be, and this is about how we get motivated to do our work in public policy. So basically, it is about reframing the motivation. It is about how any kind of policy, it has to be based on an honest advice, based on the best information which you have. It has to be documented, and it requires courage. Actually, it is not passive. Many times people ask me, youngsters particularly ask me, it is about fatality, jo hoga so hoga. How does it matter? It is I'm not bothered about what is going to happen. No. It is not that you don't bother about the process and the results. You do not attach your personal self with the outcome. That you are interested in a particular kind of outcome. That is why you are having that policy. That is the source of all the trouble in public policy, and the execution is not neutral, and the advice is not evidence based. So there's a branch of management now, branch of public policy, which is about evidence based policy making. So this unfortunately sounds very simple, but many times in real life, in public policy administration, let me tell you, much of the policy which is taken is not based on evidence. It is based on likes, dislikes. It is based on beliefs. It is based on irrational beliefs. It's based on not only evidence. It's not based on evidence. It is actually based on something which is against evidence. In spite of evidence being to the contrary, that this will not result in a good outcome, policies are designed because they are based on personal egos of people who are taking those policy decisions. All right. If the Nishkama Karma concept is adopted by officers and politics and leaders, this actually results in a lot of emotional resilience, because your personal self is not identified with the outcome. So you develop a lot of stability in your decision making and in your leadership of organization. It is not only true of public spaces, it's also true of private spaces, because you are not seen as a person who has got an axe to grind. So actually you are not indifferent to outcomes, and you are not blindly obedient to your masters, but the outcome is actually more efficient. It is very close to the next question as to how Samatva, that is emotional steadiness, helps leaders in maintaining integrity in crisis-driven public policy environment. Somehow I found from Dr. Chaudhary's questions is that there's a sense that public policy is all about crisis, and there's a lot of crisis happening, and there's a sense that public policy is all about the corruption and things which are not going right. Actually, it is not so. it is almost, I would say it is a mixed bag, like the curator's egg. It is 50-50. Many times decisions are taken which are actually very, very shreyaskar long term without bothering about immediate political goals. But many times decisions do get taken by administrators and political executive which are not beneficial in the long run. So Samatva, for officers especially. And of course, it's true for all leaders that if you can maintain, if you can maintain your head when things are going wrong and when things are going good, what is called as Tripragya in Gita, that helps you to maintain your integrity under crisis. So when the pressure comes, if you are able to maintain your balance in good times also, when the praise does not go to your head, and when the criticism will also not go to your heart too much. So if you maintain that balance, maintain that moderation in accepting praise, then even criticism, unfair criticism will also not disturb you too much. In public policy especially, many times, criticism is created in order to change your policy. It is motivated interests will create unfair criticism in order to change your mind. Many times, pressure will be put on you through social media or media to create an environment where you start doubting your own decisions. So if you are immune to too much of praise, you will be immune to too much of criticism also. All right, so the battery of the laptop is running low, and I think your battery is also running low. So I will go to the last question, and that is, how can leading by example combat corruption and favoritism in modern bureaucratic systems? Dr. Chaudhary, you think that I think everybody in bureaucracy or public policy space requires this correction, but there are a lot of good people, and the key word is, as Lord Krishna says, that people will follow the leader. If the leaders, if they maintain a lifestyle of Samatva, of Nishkama Karma, by and large they will get followers who will also follow the system. In the National Police Academy, when I was a trainee, I had a deputy director whom we looked up to as a role model. Even till today, although I am now superannuated, when I meet him, I look at him with great respect, and I feel that I have to live up to his expectations of me as an officer. Even today. So, if you are a good leader, you will also become a good teacher, automatically. Like a good father will also always try to ensure that his son follows in his footsteps. His daughter outshines him. Why it is so? Because any good leader or a good teacher or a good parent wants the next generation to be better than them. Same is with leadership. So if the leader is himself doing all kinds of wrong things, you cannot expect the followers. Empirically also there is enough evidence. Corruption is one subject which has been studied in great detail with a lot of empirical studies, and it is found that organizations with clean leaders, they have a much better outcome when it comes to accountability, transparency and corruption. Alright. It is like families, In a family, if the parents are doing all kinds of wrong things, and to tell their children that no, you should be alright, the children will not do what you tell them to do. They will do what they see you doing. Alright. So it is a very simple thing for leaders in public policy space also, that how we turn your own example into systemic change. It is by creating, open data and audits, having whistleblower protection, declare your own assets, you maintain, a pact for integrity. I will close this by just quoting Arvind Rao sir, who's my senior and my teacher. As I said, all great leaders are also great teachers. He was also a great teacher for me. Once long back, sir, you told me that the problem is that all the corrupt officers, they stick together, and all the honest officers, they keep on fighting each other. So that is what sir had told me, and that was almost like a Brahma Vakya for me, because I realized that I was also fighting with some other officers. So on ego. After that, it was my policy decision that like a cow which gives milk and is also kicking you, I will accept the kicks as long as the officer is honest. I will not trouble him. Even if he does not agree with me, I will accept his behavior. Even in all my assignments, including in the National Police Academy where I worked, I had troubles with some officers who were having outstanding integrity, but they had some personality problems. So initially, people thought that I will have a problem, but I had no problem, because I have never forgotten these words of yours, sir, that just the way the crooks have their coalition, even the honest people need to have a coalition. So the integrity coalition is very important, and we need to remember that we have to have this coalition of like-minded people when it comes to following dharmic principles. Okay, thank you very much.
Now is the time for the interactive session. So, from the audience, if you have questions that you would like to ask the speaker, please go ahead. We have a mic which will be passed on. If you raise your hand, the mic will come to you.
Sir, my name is Sivesh Kaushik. I am the student of Public Policy, Cities and Governance at Tata Institute of Social Science, Hyderabad. It's a very simple question. In your entire journey of service, did you come across any societal challenges or political challenges, or let's say any social problem where you felt that you could have solved that problem just being a common man and not being a part of IPS, or where you could feel that you could have solved that problem just being a common man amongst the common people of the society and you were unable to solve it from the position you held?
Okay, you asked a personal question, but I'll try my best to answer it. See, every generation has its own challenges. In my view, the civil services, they give in Indian context especially, they give a kind of a unprecedented power in the hands of very young people over a very large segment of Indian society at a very young age. When we join service, at least when I joined service, and I think it must be true till such time also, average age at time of joining was below 25. Of course, now it is a little bit more. Now I think average age has come to 28 plus at the time of joining service. But whether it is the IAS or the IPS or the IRS or other services, in their own spheres, they have tremendous power. And at a very young age, within 2 or 3 years of joining, they start controlling big segments of population. And the decisions which they take, they are very often life-changing for a lot of people. This is not true for most other job opportunities in India. I have my batchmates from IIT or IIM who have risen to the top in the corporate world. They have made tons amount of money. But I interact with them, so I know that they were very powerful in their own right when they were working. But the impact and their sheer pervasive interference which they could have with the common man, it is not the civil services ka koi match nahi. All right. It has both plus and minus. Plus is that if your heart is in the right place, you can bring in a tremendous amount of social reform, cultural reform in the areas which you control, even administrative reform, and many officers are doing fantastic work. Fantastic work. Please don't have any confusion. Although Dr. Chaudhary's questions, I felt that every question indicated kuch to garbad hai, kaise theek hoga. But I feel that it is looking at the glass half full, half empty. The half full thing is a lot of officers are doing very fine. The flip side is because there is so much of power. With every power comes the potential to misuse. There are some officers who will misuse. Our systems, there is a problem. Many times the wrongdoing doesn't get identified, located, and punished immediately. But it should not dishearten you. But the power to change things is tremendous. And I have a lot of satisfaction with the work which I did in all the postings which I had. All the so-called focal postings, non-focal postings, everywhere, great opportunities to learn, great opportunities to reform, great opportunities to help people and to be a positive benefit to them in their common lives. This is something which is very, very gratifying. The sense of eudaimonic happiness which I have after having served 3.5 decades, I don't think I would have matched it if I had remained in the corporate sector. Okay? Did I answer the question?
Hi, this is Sajid. In your lecture, you talked about Shreyastha, and also the need to strike balance. During the course of your career, do you have any specific you into a situation and these principles worked out for you? Excel or some other thing. What is striking a balance in real work? How do we understand? How do we figure out something is bad?
Sir, okay. Actually, when I was told about this talk, I was given the impression that I'll have 60 minutes, so I prepared my presentation accordingly. We have run over time, and I want to hear Arvind Rao, sir. I cannot tell you specific instances from my career because that will be again talking about myself, which is not my intention today. But it's not that I acted every time with a Shreya's goal and not prayers. Every time I don't wake up in the morning when I know that I should get up and go for exercise, I am not doing Shreya, I am doing prayer. Every time I waste time watching TV, a silly program which I should be doing something else which is more productive, I am doing prayer. So I know, but the thing is that I know that I am doing something which is not good for me in the long run. Something which is not beneficial to me in the long run. Similarly, in service also, there is this inner conscience, as I said, that this observer which is inside you, which always told me when I was taking a decision for myself or something for the short term, I knew that I was doing something which was not good for me and for others in the long term. I cannot obviously tell you now as to what those things were, but I have done many of such mistakes also. But I always had that sense, and I am very grateful to the Almighty that by and large, my decisions in public policy, in my job, in my career, I always took, regardless of my personal benefit, I did it for the larger good. This is my personal happiness about this.
I am Professor S.E.S. Murthy. I had 1 or 2 points on what you said. You said dissociation from guna. Guna guniyor abheda. Guna is intrinsic to a personality. You can't dissociate from guna. What you can dissociate is from the manifestation of that guna in your personality. That's number one. Number two, I thought one dimension I wanted to share, that is ownership versus trusteeship. If we inculcate the concept of trusteeship as stated in Ishavasya Upanishad, then neither the ego goes to the head nor you can get astray. So in public service, when we train, the concept of trusteeship, Dharma Kartrutva, has to be emphasized more than you being a part of the whole exercise. That is what Margaret Mead emphasized in her concept of participant observation. This is number two I wanted to share. The third point that I wanted to share with you, sir, is the first sloka that you shared, Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yutsavaha Mamaka Pandavas Seva Kim Akurvata Sanjay. There is another interesting observation on Mamaka Pandavas Seva. It says, Mamaka refers to Kauravas. Me, mine alone, Mam. That reflects Mamaka That is why it is called Kauravas. The Pandavas Chaiva, those who are fair and white, white indicates purity, they are known as Panduputras, which is also known as the common interpretation as Pandavas. These are the 3 points I thought I'll share for this meeting. Thank you.
Sir, I agree with all 3 points.
Thank you.
So mic yeah, there. Attached mic. You need to come forward. Please come forward. So please come forward, sir. No, there.
Sir, just now it was mentioned that we cannot dissociate ourselves from guna. But we can dissociate from the manifestation of gunas. So, in experience, what is the difference between those two? I mean, literally we can understand the meaning, manifestation of guna and guna. But in experience, how do you differentiate between those two?
Yeah, this again is a technical question. We are all under the influence of the 3 gunas, that is Sattva, Rajas and Tamo. You might have heard about it. Most of us know Sattva, Rajas, which actually which are present in all the beings, not only in all living beings, not only in all human beings, but in all the beings, and also in the food we eat also. Food type of food is Sattva, Sattviga, another type of food is Rasa, Rajasa, so something like that. So the dissociation has to take place in the sense that it is mandated that a person who wants to attain what is called liberation, a person who wants to liberate himself from this body, he has to go beyond the 3 gunas. And that is the reason why there are so many practices which are called in the yoga. The first step is Karma Yoga, that is doing the Nishkama. The second is what is called Sanyama, that is controlling oneself. The third is Jnana. And again, Bhakti. There are so many steps which are about in the Bhagavad Gita. For an ordinary man, not an ordinary man, but a seeker. In fact, there are 2 types of people. One is people who are engaged in social activity and then worldly activity, who are not as part of the world about liberation or anything. But if you are a seeker, then you have to follow this path. First of all, we have to start with the basic level. Then again, Atma Sanyama, which is self-control, chapter 5, 6, etc. And again, Jnana. Jnana is concentrating on mind and focusing on the mind on a particular subject and meditating on that. And again, Bhakti also adds to that. So all these things have to go together simultaneously also. And only then the mind becomes suitable enough to understand the message of the Upanishads, and then not only understand in an intellectual way, but applying it to others. Because Vedanta says you are the reality, that is, you are the Brahman. It also says that I am the Brahman. Then when will you become the Brahman? Unless you apply yourself. So Brahman is something which is beyond the gunas. So if you have to rise to that level, you have to rise beyond, rise above these gunas also. And the procedure which has been told in the Gita. And further you have to listen to a long lecture also. So right now I cannot tell. But going beyond the gunas is very, very necessary for a person to attain liberation. That is Gunaneta Nityatreen. That is what the Bible says. Gunaneta Nityatreen Guna. That is you have to go beyond the 3 gunas if you are to be a real person. And then your individuality has to disappear. Your name is somebody, your name is something like some shaker or whatever. So your name, your individuality has disappeared. Where what Vedanta says is what you think of yourself. You are not that self. You are in fact, Krishna says, that is, you are my own self. Amayivamsha. You are just my own reflection. So that is, every being is divine in nature. So your individual self totally dissolves. So that is the level in which Gita speaks. So dissociating with the gunas is what is the other gentleman who asked about dissociation with the gunas. Dissociation of gunas is something which is to be done by a seeker.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question.
Please be very brief and we have time maybe for the last 10 minutes.
Sir,
He needs to hold that mic also.
Sir, my name is Bhaskara Pantula Mohan. I was an advocate, a government counsel, later an adjudicator in the company law tribunal. My point is, before that I say, two ambidextrous personalities here. I am very carefully using the word ambidextrous. One way you both are tough police officers, capable police officers, established your rank, file, everything. Very nicely in the society. On the other hand, you spoke about Bhagavad Gita, leadership, the qualities, and I am very impressed. But the point I would like to request you to elaborate is that all your findings on Bhagavad Gita on leadership, how does it get percolated to the ground reality to inculcate public discipline so that all our findings are useful to the society? To establish the public order, public discipline, we have to involve the system. But to inculcate it, I don't think system need not be involved or system need to be involved. I would like to elaborate, I would like to request you to clarify on this point. Thank you.
Sir, many times when we exhibit impatience with public discipline, it comes from a sense of impatience with our ethos, which is slightly chaotic and which is slightly non-system oriented. This is not the place to discuss why we have this legacy of lack of so-called discipline in public space. There are many reasons. There are many legacy reasons. There are many systemic reasons. The only thing which I have done in my service, and I know I work with Arvind Rao sir as my superior in many assignments, so I know he was also the same, is that we ourselves led a very disciplined life. And when you, as I said in the beginning, that a good leader also is a good teacher, like a good parent is also a good teacher. You can't be a good leader and not be a good teacher automatically. So it percolates down, and your people who look up to you, who follow you, they themselves become more disciplined. And this percolates. I am not very comfortable with the idea of disciplining people with a rod, because somehow this has become a norm in our society that we expect everybody else to behave in a particular way, which is very comfortable, which is according to rules. But in our own conduct, we want to be a VIP. We want to be other than the rules. This is a part of our, I think, ethos now, that we want rules to apply for everybody, not to ourselves and our own family. And this hypocrisy is the one which results in the indiscipline. So I personally, and I know sir also, and I know many officers, in their own lives, in their own families, they follow discipline, they follow rules, and they try to behave according to what they are expected to behave as per the code of conduct. That is the best you can do with what you have. Trying to ensure that everybody else around you is behaving according to rules, when we ourselves are not doing as per rules, that will never work, sir. You may shout, you may impose punishment, but in the heart of heart, people will break the system, because they feel that when they are getting away, we should also get away. This is my opinion. Alright, sir. I know it's not very satisfactory, but this is the best answer I can give, that your own conduct should be according to rules and discipline. Then rest will follow, and this is everything has to be, there has to be some beginning. And this is true for every leader at every step. And leadership is not only about the organization, about the department, it's also about yourself and your families. Every parent is a leader of the family. And when you yourself do not behave in a particular way, your family will also behave in that particular way.
I now request our Chief Guest, Dr. K. to speak to us.
Shri Chaudhary ji, my friend Ms. Umesh Rao, Professor Sumayana Singh ji, and many other dignitaries who are here. Another friend of mine, that Director NPA, and many other dignitaries who are present here. I don't know why I have been given only 5 minutes time. I didn't know about that. In the book, the paper says, the agenda says I have been given only 5 minutes, but probably
10 minutes.
Now I have been permitted to take 10 minutes, and I will try to complete in 10 minutes. And first of all, I congratulate our Umesh Rao for having given some very good presentation. Excellent presentation, bringing out certain important features of leadership and what we can learn from the Bhagavad Gita. And as he rightly said, the Bhagavad Gita is something, and I was telling, I was also advising that Bhagavad Gita, however intelligent, however smart we may be, let us not try to read it on our own. It will not be understood, because that is what the various Indologists also did. Various Indologists, they wanted to study the Gita on their own, and they said it is a bundle of contradictions. So in one place, Krishna says, everything is in me, matstani sarva bhutani, and in the very next line he says, nothing is in me. And in one place, he says, God he is not bothered about your punyam, papam, etc. He doesn't take away your papam or punyam. In another place, he says, aham tva sapapape bhyo mokshayishyami, I am going to take away all your sins, etc. So like that, there are many lines which we have to see what is the context, what is the point of view from which he is speaking. Because Bhagavad Gita talks at two different levels. One is the supreme level which I was telling just now. In fact, our Vedanta talks at two levels. I think many of you will be knowing. That is one level which is the formless reality. Formless, nameless, functionless, attributeless reality. There is nothing which defines it. And that is of the nature of pure consciousness, and that manifests as this whole universe. And when this whole thing is manifested, then in this manifestation there is some order, there is some sort of intelligence, what we call cosmic intellect or cosmic order. So that cosmic order, again we again give it a name called Ishvara, or the cosmic Lord. That is the functional level. And from this Ishvara only the whole Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, all those things take place. All this, so the whole hierarchy will be understood when we listen to Gita from the beginning. So right now I will not go into that. I will just talk about a couple of points about, elaborate on what Sri Umesh Rao said. First, there was a word called Kshetra, Dharma Kshetra. Kshetra means, what is Kshetram? Kshetram is a field. Like I have suppose I have got an acre of land somewhere, that is my Kshetra, it is a field. Suppose I put a mango seed, only mango tree comes up, and I put some poison seed, some poison will come up. So whatever good or bad thing I do with this Kshetram is this body-mind complex. Kshetram is the body-mind complex which I am supposed to transcend and look at it in a very objective way, like a sakshi. As a neutral being, I am supposed to look at the Kshetram. So when I do like that, I become a Kshetrajna. So this Kshetram is a place where it gives good result if you are doing good things, it gives a bad result if you are doing bad things. So depending on the nature of work, it gives a result. So Dharma Kshetra is a Kshetram where, Dharma Kshetra in fact in the human body itself. Dharma Kshetra is, if you are going according to Dharma, it will give you good result. If you are not going according to Dharma, it will not give the good result. And another thing is, the Karma, human body itself is called the Karma Bhumi. Many of us may be under the impression that India is the Karma Bhumi. In fact, the Puranic version is, the Puranas say that India is the Karma Bhumi. In India only all our pujas and all our worships, etc., they fructify. If you go to America or if you go to Australia or any other place, our pujas will be ineffective. So many people are under that impression. It is not so. Human body is the Karma Bhumi. Bhumi doesn't mean this Bhumi which we see. Bhumi is the level. Bhumi means like Yoga Bhumika. Yoga Bhumika is the level. For example, I develop a desire to study Vedanta. That is called Shubhecha. Shubhecha is the primary Bhumi. So that is the basic Bhumi. And from that level, I go to the next Bhumika. And next level is another Bhumi. So Karma Bhumi is the level at which any jiva can do good work or bad work. Because in our scheme of things, I could have been a snake or rat, something else, some rat or something else in my earlier life, and by my good luck, I have become a human being now. So if I do good work from here, then this is the kshetra in which I can become a saint, I can become a realized person, I will get freed from this chain called the birth, death cycle. So that is getting liberated from this chain of this cycle of birth and death. That is what is called liberation. That is again it is a very technical subject. So that opportunity is given only in the human life. So that is the reason why human body is the Karma Bhumi. Otherwise, if you say that India is Karma Bhumi, we have lost a portion, lot of what was earlier Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha extended beyond Gandhara. Gandhara is the present day Afghanistan. Till Afghanistan on one side and up to Burma on another side and Ceylon and all these things, they were part of the Bharatavarsha. So a lot of Bharatavarsha has gone. So Karma Bhumi, let us remember that it is Karma Bhumi. That is, our human body is the Karma Bhumi. Then the Vedanta, this Bhagavad Gita talks about two levels, that is Pravrutti Dharma and Nivrutti Dharma. Pravrutti is for a person who is engaged in the society, who is actively engaged in society. And the second level is a seeker. Nivrutti is somebody who withdraws from the society. So these two levels it talks. And the listener, who is the listener here, he is a man of action. Arjuna is a man of action. And then the teacher also is a man of action. It is not as though he is some sannyasi who is teaching Bhagavad Gita. And if we see chapter 4, the very first couple of, the first two shlokas, they reveal that this Gita was first told by the Lord to what is called the sun god, Imam Vivasvade Yogam Proktavana Hamavyayam Vivaswan Manave Praha Manu Rikshwakave Abravit. So it comes in the line of kings. So all this line of all these kings, he also referred to Janaka. This Janakadaya Karmanaivahi Samsiddhim Astita Janakadaya, there is one line like that. That is, this Karma Yoga, what is called Karma Yoga, was first taught to not only Karma Yoga, the whole message of the Gita was first told to the sun god by the deity himself. Of course, Krishna was not there at that time. In the form of Ishvara, he had told. And from that, he told his son Manu, and Manu told Ikshvaku. And in that parampara, in that line of kings, it came. And all those people, they were called the Rajarshis. The Rajarshi is somebody who is a saint and also a king. All the Janaka, etc., they were at the same time like saints. It is not as though they completely abandoned the family life, etc. They were actually ruling the kingdom, and they also had their family lives, etc. But then they were also saintly people, and at the same time they were also kings. So that is the Rajarshi tradition. And Gita is told for a man of action. So that is the reason why we have to all this discussion about leadership qualities, etc., it becomes highly relevant because we find so many things in the Gita relating to this management of self, first of all, because Gita, in my view, it talks more about the management of self than about managing others. Because usually what do we understand by management? Management is you are in charge of a group of people and your job is to get some work from them. And if you have to get some work from them, like Umesh described just now, you have to be yourself above board and you have to be a role model. And that role model is very, very important. Yadyad acharati shreshtaha tattadeva itaro janaha, itare janaha or itaro janaha. So whatever the Shrestha is a role model. And that role model, whatever he does, the other people also do. So Gita talks more about a person who is to be a role model in the society. So that is what we see. And we can also see that about the gunas. About the guna is a very, very important concept. This guna is a very, very important concept which is not exactly there in the Upanishads, but then it has been taken from the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya, there is one saint called Kapila Maharshi, and he first wrote the Sankhya Sutras. So that Sankhya philosophy has been absorbed into Vedanta philosophy by the philosophers and by sage Vyasa, let us say. And this guna, the aspect of guna has been brought into Vedanta. So that is very, very important to explain human nature. And there only we find this leadership qualities and then all these things and they become relevant here. Then we can see that we can examine the human behavior from various angles. For example, Gita talks about what is called Daiva Asura Sampad Vibhaga, that what is the human and what is divine, what is the divine and what is the Asura, Deva and Asura. Devas and Asura, again, it is not as though gods do not mean that people who are wearing some crowns and then wearing some nice ornaments, etc., who are staying somewhere in heaven. And demons are people who are ugly looking people. It's not like that. Deva again is our own refined, say, value system is Deva. Deva Shastrodbhasita Indriya Vrittaya, says one commentary on the Gita, not on the Gita, but on one Upanishad called Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There is a commentary which says, Deva means not people who are staying somewhere in heaven. Your own refined ideas which have been refined by the study of Shastra Udbhasita Indriya Vrittaya. Asura, the meaning of Asura is Asushu Ramante iti Asura. Asu means our own the sense organs. Who indulge in sensual pleasures. People who indulge in sensual pleasures are the Asuras. So Daiva and Asura, these two, this is one paradigm from which we can categorize people. There is another categorization called Gunatraya categorization. Gunatraya is Sattva and Rajas and Tamas. These three are present in every being. Even in a saint, there is some element of Tamas. Even in a very, what you call a highly wretched person, in that person also there is some element of Sattva Guna. There is some good in everybody and there is some little bit of bad in everything. So all of us are a mixture of these three gunas in different proportions. That is the cause for the diversity which we see in creation. So this is again this forms another way of classification. That is what Krishna did. That is depending on these three gunas only. He divided the people, or he was probably first psychologist, or Vyasa was the first psychologist to divide the people into these four categories: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaisya, Shudra. What is this Brahmana? There is a predominance of, it is not as though it is his birthright to be a Brahmana. Predominance of Sattva Guna in whoever he may be, if there is a predominance of Sattva Guna, he comes under that category. If there is a Rajoguna, that is ambition, he has got all ambition, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that, etc. So that person is Kshatriya. Again, another aspect of Rajoguna, that is acquisition, more and more acquisition. It's called Vaisya. Then again, somebody who is not very capable of thinking, etc., who is only a follower type. So that gentleman is called a Shudra. So this was the classification, Guna Karma Vibhagasaha, Chaturvarnyamaya Sustam Guna Karma Vibhagasaha. I am just telling you, though it is not directly connected with this, because this is one challenge which we always face. This is one question which we always face. That is, Gita created caste division. Gita has not created caste division. Kindly let us understand, let us tell people. Gita has only told about 4 varnas and not about 4,000 castes, 4,000 or more castes which people talk about. So it is only talking about 4 varnas, and these 4 varnas, as I said, it is not birthright. Kindly read the commentaries on shloka number 41 of chapter 18. Chapter 18, there is a shloka, Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranancha Parantapa Karmani Pravibhaktani Swabhava Prabhavir Gunaihi. There again there is a word called Swabhava. Then what is this Swabhava? There is a very elaborate commentary on that. So 18th chapter, 41st shloka, commentary you kindly read. There it is very clearly said. There are a lot many verses which are quoted from Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, where it is said that a person is called a Shudra, but you find all Brahmin qualities. How should you treat him? You have to call him a Brahmin. And if suppose a person is born in a Brahmin family and he has got all Shudra qualities, how should you treat him? You should treat him as a Shudra only. You should designate him as a Shudra. So this was there for a quite long time. This was the original system. This was the original conception. But unfortunately, society being what it is, like Chief Minister's son, he wants to be Chief Minister, so that it is somewhat like that. So the system went on, and probably these people had also some advantage of birth in a particular line. So probably it was accepted by the society also. But we have to remember that only 4 varnas have been created based on the division, predominance of a particular guna. So this guna clarification, this classification may be one type. There is another thing called Shraddha Traya. Shraddha Traya means 3 types of Shraddha. Shraddha is the sense of conviction, sense of trust and conviction and willingness to do a particular thing. This Shraddha also can be 3 types. There can be Satvika Shraddha, there is Rajasa Shraddha and Tamasa Shraddha. A person like, suppose a saintly person, he does some tapas, let us say. So that is a Satvika Shraddha. If somebody like Ravana, he also does tapas. Somebody, some asura, some demon, he also does tapas. And then he stands on one leg and then he stands for a lot many years and then he achieves all powers, etc. So that is the Tamasa Shraddha. So this is another way in which this personality clarification can also, personality division can also be done. And for the Tamasa Shraddha, etc., Daiva, Asuras, Sampat, there are lot many verses particularly in the 14th chapter, 16th, 17th and 18th. 14, 16, 17 and 18, if you read those chapters in a close way, there are lot many things which talk about the human nature. So this analysis of human nature is very beautifully given in those things. That is again, it gives those verses, they give a lot of insight into this analysis of people, examination of people, categorization of people, etc. For example, where we suppose Hiranyakashipu says, what does he say? I want the whole world under me, the whole world has to be under my control. So such people, we call them demons. But now we are seeing people like somebody like Trump, he says the whole world, today I have got this, tomorrow I have to get Cuba, I have to get some other Greenland, I have to get this, that, etc. Our books call them asuras. Asuras are demons. So this is the irony of it. So there are certain verses like that, Asaumaya hatas shatruhu, anishyecha aparanapi. So today I have killed this man, tomorrow I will kill the other gentleman. Idamadhyamaya labdham, imam prapsye manoratam. Today I have got this, tomorrow I will get the other one too. So something like that. These are the asuric tendencies which we see, and the leaders have to, they can take note of such things also. So Shraddha exists in demons also. So let us, I will just conclude here. I have not come prepared for this because, as I said earlier, I just wanted to listen to Ramesh, who has given an excellent presentation. So then, with these words, I will conclude. If there are any questions also, I am prepared to take, but I don't think there are any questions. We have already gone beyond our time. 5:30 it was supposed to close and it is, I think, beyond 6. So I will conclude. Yes, please. Personal questions kindly avoid, because if you ask for my personal experience, how I handled a situation, etc. And Umesh Rao gave a very wonderful example of Rama, the leadership style of Rama and Krishna. The leadership style of Rama was to follow rules, and the leadership style of Krishna was to violate. So those 2 types we also follow now and then. He also mentioned the name encounters. I will not say more.
I'm Dr. Veni Madhavi. I'm a botanist and into landscape gardener, specialized in temple gardens and divine trees. So I just had a question to Miss Sir.
Yeah, I'll sit there.
So much we have come to know about the Gita and all these essence and all. So which is basically applicable to our personal, leadership means it is the personal level. My question is like, in the present governance, what is that missing in the policy and in the public policy, and what can be suggested if it is missing? Some proposal what can be amended from the essence of Gita. So, because that is the core essence of the entire the talks. Is something missing in the present governance still? So, if so, like something can be suggested now for.
So the point is, like I said, chapter 4 of Gita, if you see, it is meant for the kings. So which means that the kings had some people who were advisors, some saints who were advisors, who knew Dharma, who knew the Dharma at the highest level and the Dharma at the practical level. So such people were advisors to the king. So there is in the commentators they say that the advisor and the king, these two people, if they are well trained in Dharma, then they are fit to rule the society, the whole world. Dharma Kshatriya. There is one line called Brahma Kshatriya Paripalite Jagat Paripalayitum Alam, which means that if the advisor, whoever is the advisor, the saint, for example, for Rama and others, Vasishtha was the advisor. Many other people, if you see the line of kings in India, many people had some saints and such people as advisors. So, but now, I don't know whether the present administration or the earlier administration, they had any advisors, some saintly people as advisors, I don't know. But we have now forgotten, we have totally forgotten. And there are various other considerations anyway. So what we said is, if our people have the good sense of having such advisors, probably they will also get some good advice.
I now request Dr. Evan Chaudhary to address the gathering.
Well, just now we had a great exposition to Bhagavad Gita from a specific point of view. In fact, when we were meeting him and we asked him to give on a suitable topic, and he suggested this topic of Bhagavad Gita, we thought at that time we were a little apprehensive that Gita seems to be a hackneyed topic, because every person who talks about Gita, everyone thinks that he knows something about Gita, and I don't know whether it will be able to invoke interest in people and whether we will be going to make a unique or distinct point. But he has cleared all our doubts and fantastic point of view he has presented. The main speaker, Srimad Sharafji, linking Bhagavad Gita to the leadership qualities and how they can come up following Gita. That was a great presentation from him, and I could see that everybody listened to him with rapt attention, and there are many things which he learned for the first time from him. Let's give a big hand to him. The questions that were asked following that were also very relevant, and I will also offer one explanation. He answered some 5 questions that he associated my name with. Let me confess that they are not my questions. We have a group of people, or rather experts on public policy. They were very excited at the idea of somebody speaking on Gita and the leadership qualities and their connection with Gita. So when they learned that, they felt that if you get answers to these questions, it will be lecture will become much more effective, meaningful and useful, and therefore those questions were sent to him, and at a very short notice he prepared the answers. Let me again thank and congratulate the speaker for doing justice to that questions. In fact, he could even have denied answering them, telling that it's a very short notice, but I really thank him for, in fact it's only one day before that we asked him the questions and he has thoroughly prepared and answered. So it was a great session. Subsequently, Dr. Arvind Rao in his talk, he gave a kind of bird's eye view and gave a philosophical orientation to whatever was said, and also there were what he felt were some missing dots. He connected those dots and gave a full curve with which we can probably place everything that was said, where it came from and where it belongs. So that kind of philosophical orientation he gave to Gita and to the lecture, and that also would perhaps would have cleared some of the doubts in our minds. He also advised us not to directly try to learn Gita without help. Take only expert help and then only try to interpret it, because otherwise there are many pitfalls and you are likely to feel disappointed or get led astray. So I thank him also for that. Now, just I will take a few more minutes talking about Samskruti talk itself. As I said in the beginning, our aim in conducting all these important talks is to generate a debate and also get ideas which are workable and which connect our culture, our cultural wisdom, the good practices, good philosophical points to the current public policy. Now, this can be primarily contributed to by three sets of people, though others also can very well contribute, but we thought that there are three sets of people who can contribute to that. Number one is those people who are versed in Sanskrit, ancient literature and our scriptures. Any one of these, those people can contribute because they have they are expected to have better perception of our cultural values as enshrined in the literature and in the scriptures. So they can basically generate the ideas. Secondly, it's the public policy experts or professionals who can think about those ideas and think of ways to translate those points into actionable public policy points. So that is the second set of people. And the third group of people who can help implementation of those ideas and also warn us about what are the flaws and what are the good points about it. And this group, which is a rather large group, to that group belong people who are in various administrative positions in the government or private sectors in different capacities. So they are the people who can look at it and definitely contribute by way of suggesting changes and suggesting ways of implementing and fine-tuning the policy parts. Therefore, these three groups were designed, and we want to involve people who can be said to be associated with these three different distinct groups. Now, I find that in the participants, a large number of people from all these three groups are present here. So, I would extend my appeal to all of you not to confine the your thinking that you might have got triggered into by today's talk to today's session itself, but extend it and try to be in touch with us with your own contributions about these things. What you can make your suggestions, you can be in touch with us and contribute this humongous task of incorporating our cultural values in the current public life. That is what our ultimate mission is. Perhaps that kind of thing cannot happen through just brainstorming sessions, because they are essentially only problem solving sessions. But here we are looking to new idea generation, and that can come only through deliberate examination and scrutiny of the literature and scriptures that are available, and analysis, and then looking for deliberately for ideas which have the potential for inclusion into public policy. So that's not just a casual or spontaneous act, but it will come only after deep scrutiny, and that's why we are allowing time for questions and answers also, so that people can think about it and then can come forward with ideas. Some of you might have got some ideas earlier, but for the want of time or for some reason or the other may not have given much thought to them or published them. If you have such ideas, you can please submit your idea in the form of articles, blogs, approach papers, working papers, etc. in any form. We will take them and process them appropriately and even take up publication wherever necessary. So all of you since the intellectual cream of Hyderabad is here, I am not wrong if I say that, I appeal to all of you to think about this and be in touch with us, contributing to this task of incorporating the extract of our culture into the current public policy. So this is what I want to appeal to you once again. Please come regularly to this event, which is held on 3rd Saturday of every month at this time around 3:34 to 6 o'clock. So I thank you for sparing your time for this today. Thank you very much.
Chandrasekhar ji. I request Dr. K. Arvind Rao ji to present a memento to Dr. Umesh Sharaf on behalf of Samskruti Foundation. Oh, he's part of our... I would request Debashish ji to come over and read out the list of the follow-up list of attendees. Please come.
Request everyone to please just by raise of hands or standing up, let the wider audience see you. Mr. Sanjay from organization PRF. Mr. Prasad PVRK, retired GM, Hyderabad Metropolitan Water Sewerage Board. Mr. Prasad PVRK, retired GM, Hyderabad Metropolitan Water Sewerage Board. Mr. Amit Garg, Director SVP NPA. Mr. V. Koteshwaramma, IRS, Additional CIT Income Tax. Anuradha Bakaraju, Advocate. Dr. Nagalakshmi Tata, former Member Secretary MGNCRE. Dr. Anandanam, retired Associate Professor RSS. Pammi Sudhakar Reddy, Secretary and Correspondent Sri Venkateshwara Colleges. Chaturvedula Vishweshwara Sarma, LIC, retired LIC employee. Mr. Bollapragada Venkata R, retired from SBI. Mr. Ravi Krishna, Associate VP, Sri City Industrial Park. We have another similar set of talks on 18th of April. Request you all to grace that event with your presence. And we will be sending Google Forms for your feedback and if you have any follow-up questions on this event. And we have arranged some refreshments for all of you. Please treat yourself before leaving. Thank you.
They need not leave. They need not leave. Sorry about that. We have a brief. Yeah. Venugopal ji ka speech. Yeah. So we have a brief vote of thanks by Director of Samskruti Talks, Shri Udita Venugopal Garu. Following that, we will have Shanti Mantram, which will be closing the event formally. And after that, there are some tea and snacks arrangement outside. So please feel free to attend. Please come, sir.
Svadharmo niganam Shreya, paradharmo bhayavaha. is my favorite verse from Bhagavad Gita. Distinguished leaders on the dais. Distinguished leaders on the dais. Our chief guest, Dr. Arvind Rao Garu, learned speaker Umesh Sharaf Garu, and our own distinguished leader, U.M. Chaudhary ji. Sir, here today we were here to listen to these great personalities. Dr. U.M. Chaudhary ji, thank you so much, sir, for providing us overall background on context of Samskruti Talks and Samskruti Foundation. You have detailed us on the information on the efforts which we are putting through Samskruti Talks in contribution to the public policy building, particularly in water, food. Our learned speaker of the day, Umesh Sharaf ji. Sir, thank you so much for our leadership lessons from Indian scriptures, particularly Bhagavad Gita, and great, sir, your briefing on great building of the resonance between the Indian scriptures and the leadership lessons. You have very well linked of 12 shlokas of Gita to the process of leadership making and giving a brief of Hindu Shastra pantheon, story of Nachiketa to the behavioral aspects and divine partnership, grace and effort, and the 4 pillars of spiritual things. You have mentioned about the toxicity in corporate leadership, sir. I come from, I worked both in SEBI and Securities and Exchange Board of India, and also been part of corporate cultures, various corporate entities, and the crisis management which you have touched upon. The 4 pillars of Yukta living and work balance is very important in today's corporate world. He touched upon the Buddha's lessons on balance and golden mean of spiritual lives, nature of Kshetra and Kshetrajna, the field and knowers, 24 elements of material existence, path of liberation, 20 qualities of true knowledge. He has touched upon the 3 foundations of spiritual wisdom and divine qualities, integration and practice, apt power to the 5 questions which we have asked him upon, on Svadharma, Dharma, in policymaking, and Nishkama Karma, Samvatva, and leading by example, and answering all our questions today from our audiences. Thank you so much, sir. Arvind ji, our chief guest, has also, sir, thank you so much, sir, on touching upon the importance of listening the Gita from a main learned scholars, levels of reality, order of manifestations, elaborating on the concepts of Dharma, Kshetra, Dharma, Bhumi, Karma Bhumi, and levels of 2 levels of Dharma, Karma Yoga, and role making, Guna and Sankhya philosophy, human behavioral and divinity, Gunatraya, and classifications of Sarvaguna and Karma Vibhaga, 4 Varnas. We also thank Venugopal Reddy ji, the facility provider for Samskruti Foundations, and today we are enjoying his facility provided by him. Sridhar Chanakya ji, Vyayam Karta, head of, he is leading his, and Balaji Garu, photography and video supervision. Shri Venu ji, office support, he has been extending his office support and has been with us, taking care of each and every aspects within the office of administration. And thank you so much all the attendees and student volunteers who have been with us and making this program grand success. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Please stand in your places for Shanti Mantram. Shanti Mantram.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. धन्यवाद.